Hey everyone, Andy here with Mossy Creek Fly Fishing. Today is Tuesday, September 5th. Sorry for the delay getting you all the fishing forecast this week. But when we look at the weather we've got coming up here, we're going to be starting this week off really hot. We've got temperatures in the mid to upper 90s, and we do have some cooler weather to look forward to. It looks like about 10 days out, so you can kind of look forward to that. But for the time being this week, we're definitely going to be looking at warm weather, low water, more of the same basically. So I'm going to try to not focus too much on the negatives this week as far as what we can't do. We've been telling you all about low water now for quite a while. You're hearing about it everywhere else. So I'll try to talk more about what we can do right now, and we'll pray for rain. Speaking of which, we do have a little bit of rain in the forecast potentially later this week, so keep your fingers crossed. Everybody do your rain dances at home. Looks like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we have some chances, so let's hope that we get hit by all of those, but we'll take anything we can get. So as far as a couple important announcements to make, just to make sure everybody's on the same page here, Beaver Creek is still closed to fishing until we do get cooler temps and higher water. And then Shenandoah National Park as well. You cannot fish any of the trout streams in there right now, and we'll try and update y'all whenever either of those things change, but just as a reminder, so if you got a trip planned for any of those, you can start looking at some other options. So as far as trout fishing goes, we are still fishing on Mossy Creek. Mossy's been in pretty good shape. The hex hatch is still going strong. We've had fish eating those hex, and we've had people catching fish on them. If you're out there throughout the day, you may see one or two here and there, sporadic, not a whole lot of bug activity in that time frame, but in your evening hours is when you're really going to start to see numbers of those, and when you're probably going to have your best shot to get a fish actually coming up to eat those bugs. So keep your eye out for those big, huge mayfly. You can't miss them. And otherwise, when you're fishing on Mossy Creek, we've still been seeing tremendous numbers of grasshoppers. Those have been fishing quite well for us. Grasshoppers of all sizes too. Anything from, like if you were looking at a Moorish hopper, a little size 10, on up to some really big stuff, bigger than even a lot of the hoppers that you would traditionally see in a fly pattern. So that allows us to fish hoppers of all sorts of different sizes. And if you're out there and you're just blind fishing, trying to get a fish to rise, a hopper's a great way to do that. Makes a nice loud noise when it hits the water, keys that fish that something has landed above them, and hopefully you're going to have some big fish come out from under those banks or under all the vegetation they're tucked away in and grab that fly. Now, if you're not doing well on the surface, if you can't get a fish to come up and eat on top, you could definitely fish a dry dropper, drop a little nymph off the back of that hopper and dredge it near all your vegetation, those weed beds that grow out. Try and get a nymph right on the edge of that so fish can easily just slip out and grab it. Doesn't have to work too hard and move too much for a smaller piece of food like that. Alternatively, you could try dredging bottom with some small micro streamers, things like leech patterns, small sculpin patterns. Those can produce some fish as well. So really you can fish a lot of different ways on Mossy. You got to kind of feel it out day to day and see what the fish are in the mood for. We have had some slightly slower mornings, likely due to that hex hatch in the afternoon, but it's still worth being out there. Mornings are cooler. It's a little nicer time physically for us to be on the water. So I wouldn't tell yourself don't go fishing in the morning, but if you have a little bit of slower fishing, that'll at least give you something to blame it on. You can also get out and fish on the tailwater streams. Jackson River is at great wade fishing level. Limited access down there, so that's something to keep in mind, but plenty of fish for you to get on at all your public boat ramps there. And I would focus on some of your fast moving water there. Fish are going to push right up into the heads of those riffles when we have these warmer water temps, even in your tailwater streams. There's tons of food coming in, so they can sit right in that white water, find themselves a little eddy underneath of all that circulating water, and get tons of food and be pretty happy holding even in that real fast water. If you want to get out and do some other trout fishing, at the moment you're going to have to be willing to travel a little bit, at least if you're coming from the Harrisonburg area. So you can go maybe down into Southwest Virginia area, a couple hours away, but you've got a little bit more water down there. Give us a call if you need any recommendations or anything on some spots to check out. You can run over into West Virginia. There's a couple areas over there that are probably still holding some fish, staying a little bit colder. And so, you know, it's a good excuse maybe right now if you're used to just fishing this area. Take advantage of kind of being forced to go and find other water, go explore some stuff you haven't seen before. One thing nice about low water is you learn a ton about the fishery that you're on. You can see every rock, every boulder. You find all those different holding spots for fish. That way when the water comes back up, you've got a much better idea of what you're looking at when you can't necessarily see below the surface. Now, as far as smallmouth fishing goes, river's still very low and clear here, but we are still floating. So the Shenandoah, if you get out and float it on your own, anticipate that you're going to need to get out of your boat here and there and pull through some of the shallower rapids. It'd be nearly impossible to make it through just about any float without having to get out here and there. But the fishing's still been good. So sight fishing opportunities are plentiful. We've got fish that are definitely pushing to the banks, eating bugs like crazy. We've had some great topwater fishing days. And when you're in your more moving water, you could do really well throwing some of your bait fish patterns. But really keep in mind that those fish are definitely very spooky. We are really needing to work on those longer casts, making sure we can get something to the fish before they know that we're right there on top of them. So fish well downriver from you, fish well away from the boat from you. Don't focus on anything you've already gone past. Those are spooked fish. You're very likely not going to catch anything fishing right in the immediate zone of your boat, or even if you're wade fishing. So good time also to practice some of that longer distance casting and get out there and you can see how these fish respond to your flies. It's really visual, ton of fun to get out and do that still. And then finally, you can do carp fishing. The low water is great for carp. You can find them, you can see them. Again, you can watch how they react to your flies. Really allows you to actually have a pretty good chance of sight fishing to them. When our water levels are a little higher, we have difficulty getting into zones where the carp are up shallow enough, and difficulty seeing them as well. So when we're low and clear like this, it's a great time to go and give that a try. I know I've talked to a few folks here in the shop who've been doing that and have actually had a bit of success. We've been out trying some ourselves and have had some fish hooked up, some fish lost, but they're definitely out moving around feeding like crazy. So a good time to go out and do that. And then that's about it for this week. Like I said, we got cooler temperatures on the horizon, so we'll look forward to that. Before we know it, we'll have more water in our streams, we'll have trout stocking season coming up, and we'll be moving on to other things. So get out and do this while we still have the opportunity to. We're all going to be missing summer smallmouth once we get into those cold days of winter, so enjoy it while you can. Thanks for watching. Hopefully y'all had a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks.